Introduction: The high cost of chasing the dream. From the allure of financial freedom to promises of a glamorous lifestyle, the billion-dollar industry of multi-level marketing, MLM, sells more than products, it sells hope. Selling the Dream: The Billion-Dollar Industry Bankrupting Americans by Jane Marie exposes the dark underbelly of an industry that preys on ambition, vulnerability, and the human desire for a better life. While often wrapped in glossy branding and inspirational messaging, MLMs have led countless individuals into financial ruin and emotional despair, leaving behind broken dreams and empty bank accounts. Why do these companies, which promote self-made success, end up entangling so many in cycles of debt and failure? Why do people continue to believe in the promises of MLMs despite widespread evidence of their predatory practices? Jane Marie answers these questions with unflinching clarity, revealing how MLMs exploit psychology, manipulate trust, and disguise deception as opportunity. This book isn't just about the mechanics of MLMs, it's about their cultural impact. From Tupperware parties to Instagram influencers, the MLM playbook has evolved with the times, adapting to new technologies and social trends to remain a dominant force. Through meticulous research, personal testimonies, and industry analysis, Marie unveils the systemic flaws that perpetuate this toxic business model. As we embark on this six-chapter exploration, we'll dive into the origins of MLMs, their psychological strategies, the lives of those ensnared in the system, and the regulatory failures that allow them to thrive. This is not just a critique but a call to action, a plea to recognize the damage inflicted by selling dreams at the expense of reality. Whether you've been tempted to join an MLM, know someone who has, or simply want to understand the forces shaping modern consumerism, this book is an essential guide to one of America's most pervasive and misunderstood industries. Brace yourself for an eye-opening journey into the heart of the MLM empire, where hope meets exploitation and success stories often come with a hidden price. Chapter 1: The Origins of Multi-Level Marketing. To understand the rise of multi-level marketing, MLM, one must first delve into its origins, a tale of ambition, ingenuity, and opportunism. What began as a novel sales strategy in mid-20th century America has evolved into a global phenomenon that generates billions of dollars annually. This chapter traces MLM's historical roots, revealing how it became a seductive business model and a cultural force. From door-to-door sales to a systematic model. The seeds of MLM were planted in the 1940s when companies like Nutrilite pioneered a method of incentivizing salespeople not only to sell products, but also to recruit others into the business. Unlike traditional door-to-door sales, this system promised participants a cut of the profits generated by their recruits, creating a pyramid-like structure of earnings. This innovative approach appealed to post-war Americans seeking financial security and a sense of entrepreneurial independence. By the 1950s, Amway had formalized and popularized the MLM model. Founders Rich DeVos and Jay Van Andel combined motivational speeches with aggressive recruitment strategies, positioning Amway as a pathway to the American dream. Their success set the stage for countless imitators, cementing MLM's place in the fabric of American consumerism. The psychology of the dream. From its inception, MLM relied on more than just products to thrive, it sold a vision. The promise of becoming one's own boss, achieving financial freedom, and escaping the drudgery of traditional employment resonated deeply with many. For women, particularly during the mid-20th century, MLMs like Tupperware offered a rare opportunity for economic participation while staying within the bounds of socially acceptable roles. The brilliance of the MLM model lay in its ability to turn participants into true believers. Through motivational events, rags to riches success stories, and a relentless focus on positivity, companies cultivated a culture of hope and ambition. This psychological buy-in proved to be a powerful tool, ensuring that even those who struggled to turn a profit remained loyal to the dream. The shifting landscape of MLMs. As society and technology evolved, so too did MLMs. The 1980s and 1990s saw the rise of health and wellness-focused companies like Herbalife and Mary Kay, which targeted a growing consumer interest in self-improvement. These brands leveraged societal trends, using the language of empowerment and self-care to attract recruits. They positioned themselves not just as business opportunities but as movements aligned with personal growth and community building. The advent of the internet in the 2000s revolutionized MLM recruitment. Social media platforms became fertile ground for expanding networks, allowing sellers to reach potential recruits globally. Companies embraced digital marketing, blending traditional methods with influencer culture to appeal to a tech-savvy generation. This shift enabled MLMs to transcend geographic boundaries, further embedding themselves into the fabric of global commerce. The fine line between business and exploitation. While MLMs position themselves as opportunities for ordinary people to achieve extraordinary success, their structural reliance on recruitment over product sales raised concerns. Critics argued that the emphasis on expanding networks created a model where only those at the top reaped significant rewards, while the vast majority struggled to break even. These critiques laid the foundation for growing skepticism about the industry's ethics and sustainability. The dawn of a controversial industry. By the end of the 20th century, MLMs had become deeply entrenched in American society, offering both hope and controversy. Their ability to adapt to changing times while maintaining their core promises ensured their longevity. However, the cracks in the facade, highlighted by regulatory scrutiny and personal stories of financial ruin, began to reveal the darker side of this billion-dollar dream factory. This chapter sets the stage for a deeper exploration of MLM's operations and impact. As we move forward, the focus shifts to the tactics and psychology that allow these companies to thrive, often at the expense of the very people they claim to empower. Chapter 2: The Mechanics of Manipulation. At the heart of the MLM empire lies a business model that thrives on psychological manipulation, carefully designed to blur the lines between opportunity and exploitation. This chapter delves into the inner workings of multi-level marketing companies, uncovering the tactics used to recruit, retain, and profit from participants while keeping them tethered to the dream of success. The recruitment playbook: hooking the dream. Recruitment is the lifeblood of MLMs, and the strategies used to attract new participants are finely tuned to exploit human desires and vulnerabilities. Companies target individuals looking for financial freedom, community, and purpose, whether it's stay-at-home parents seeking supplemental income, recent graduates hoping to avoid traditional 9-to-5 jobs, or retirees searching for a second act. MLMs often employ social proof as a primary recruitment tool. Participants are encouraged to share success stories, flaunt perceived wealth, and portray an enviable lifestyle on social media. The underlying message is clear: this could be you. By presenting themselves as living examples of success, recruiters create a powerful allure for those seeking a way out of financial or emotional hardship. The cultivation of belief. Once recruits are brought into the fold, MLMs use a combination of motivational rhetoric and strategic conditioning to cultivate loyalty. Weekly meetings, flashy conventions, and training seminars become echo chambers of positivity, where participants are encouraged to embrace a success-at-all-costs mentality. Phrases like "you just have to believe," or "your success is up to you," create a culture of relentless optimism, making it difficult for participants to acknowledge failure or voice doubts. These gatherings often feature charismatic leaders, company founders, or top earners, who are positioned as role models and symbols of the MLM dream. Through emotional speeches and carefully curated presentations, these leaders reinforce the narrative that success is achievable for anyone who works hard enough, while subtly placing the blame for failure on individual shortcomings rather than structural flaws in the business model. The illusion of community. MLMs capitalize on the human need for connection by fostering a sense of community among participants. Recruits are told they're joining a family or a supportive network of like-minded individuals. This creates an emotional bond that goes beyond the financial transaction, making it harder for participants to walk away even when faced with mounting losses. This sense of belonging is often amplified through exclusive events and rewards for top performers, such as luxury trips, cars, or public recognition. These perks, though enjoyed by only a small fraction of participants, serve as powerful motivators and aspirational symbols for the wider network. The financial trap: endless investment. To keep participants engaged, MLMs often require ongoing financial commitments disguised as business expenses. Recruits are encouraged to purchase starter kits, training materials, and inventory, with the promise that these investments will pay off once they build their networks. However, the reality for many is a cycle of perpetual spending with little to no return. Monthly sales quotas and auto-ship programs further entrench participants in the system. Those who fail to meet these requirements risk losing their status, commissions, or access to benefits, creating a pressure to buy products they may not need just to remain active. Blurring the lines between success and exploitation. The brilliance of the MLM model lies in its ability to shift the burden of success entirely onto the participant. By emphasizing personal responsibility and effort, MLMs deflect accountability for the structural inequalities inherent in their systems. Recruits who fail are often told they didn't work hard enough, buy into the program deeply enough, or maintain the right mindset, all tactics that reinforce self-blame and deepen commitment. The invisible costs. While MLMs claim to offer financial freedom, they often extract more than they give. Participants frequently incur significant debt, strained relationships, and emotional exhaustion in their pursuit of the dream. Yet, the culture of silence and positivity within MLMs ensures that these costs are rarely discussed openly. A system built to thrive. This chapter reveals the mechanics that allow MLMs to perpetuate their cycles of recruitment and retention. By preying on human psychology, offering the illusion of community, and shifting accountability, these companies sustain themselves at the expense of those they claim to empower. As we move forward, we'll examine the personal stories of those ensnared in this system, highlighting the real-world consequences of MLM's manipulative tactics. Chapter 3: The Human Cost of the Dream. Behind the polished promises and inspirational rhetoric of MLMs lies a sobering reality. Countless individuals are left financially drained, emotionally exhausted, and socially isolated. This chapter explores the personal toll of participating in MLMs, using real-life stories and common patterns to illustrate how these schemes disproportionately harm the people they claim to empower. The financial fallout. For many participants, the journey into an MLM begins with a substantial financial investment. Starter kits, inventory purchases, and ongoing fees for training materials or events often cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars. These expenses are framed as necessary steps toward success, making it easy for recruits to justify spending money they may not have. Yet, studies show that the vast majority of MLM participants, up to 99% in some cases, fail to earn a profit. Instead, they find themselves trapped in a cycle of debt, using personal savings, credit cards, or loans to sustain their involvement. This financial strain can be devastating, particularly for individuals who joined an MLM in the hope of overcoming existing economic hardships. The emotional toll. The culture of relentless positivity within MLMs often exacerbates the emotional toll on participants. Recruits are told that success depends on their mindset and effort, creating an environment where failure feels deeply personal. Those who struggle to meet sales quotas or recruit new members may experience feelings of shame, inadequacy, and self-blame. This emotional manipulation is compounded by the social pressures within MLM networks. Participants are often encouraged to distance themselves from skeptics, including friends and family members who question the legitimacy of the business. This isolation reinforces the participants' dependence on the MLM community, even as it creates rifts in their personal relationships. Stories of struggle and loss. The stories of those harmed by MLMs reveal common themes of hope turned to despair. Take, for example, a single mother who drained her savings to invest in an MLM, only to find herself unable to sell the inventory she'd been pressured to purchase. Or the recent college graduate who joined an MLM seeking financial independence but ended up working long hours for minimal returns, all while alienating her social circle with aggressive recruitment tactics. For many, the realization that the dream is unattainable comes too late. By the time they recognize the flaws in the system, they've already lost significant time, money, and relationships. Worse, the culture of self-blame often prevents them from speaking out, leaving them to suffer in silence. Disproportionate impact on women. Women are disproportionately targeted by MLMs, particularly stay-at-home mothers, single mothers, and women in economically vulnerable positions. MLMs often frame themselves as opportunities for women to achieve financial independence while maintaining flexibility and work-life balance. This messaging is deeply appealing to those seeking to contribute to their household income without sacrificing family responsibilities. However, this targeting also makes women particularly susceptible to the financial and emotional harms of MLMs. Many women find themselves juggling the demands of the business with caregiving and household responsibilities, only to discover that the promised rewards never materialize. The strain on their time, finances, and emotional well-being can be overwhelming. The ripple effect on families and communities. The impact of MLM participation extends beyond the individual. Families often bear the brunt of the financial fallout, as participants use joint savings or borrow money to sustain their involvement. Communities, too, are affected, as aggressive recruitment tactics strain social ties and create an atmosphere of distrust. Even those who leave MLMs may face long-lasting consequences, including damaged relationships and financial instability. The dream that once seemed so promising leaves behind a trail of disillusionment and loss. A reckoning with reality. This chapter sheds light on the human cost of MLMs, emphasizing the disconnect between the dream they sell and the reality they deliver. For every success story touted at an MLM rally, there are countless untold stories of struggle and failure. These experiences reveal the true price of the dream, one that too often comes at the expense of those who can least afford it. As we move forward, we'll examine the regulatory landscape that allows MLMs to persist, despite the harm they cause. Chapter 4: The Regulatory Void and Loopholes. The resilience of multi-level marketing, MLMs, is not just a product of their savvy marketing and psychological strategies, it also stems from a lack of effective regulation. Despite growing awareness of their predatory practices, MLMs have managed to thrive in a legal gray area, exploiting loopholes and leveraging political connections to avoid meaningful oversight. This chapter explores the regulatory failures that allow MLMs to operate unchecked, perpetuating cycles of harm. The thin line between MLMs and pyramid schemes. At the core of the regulatory challenge is the difficulty of distinguishing legitimate MLMs from illegal pyramid schemes. Pyramid schemes, which are explicitly banned in most countries, rely primarily on recruitment for income, with little to no focus on product sales. MLMs, by contrast, claim to be product-driven businesses, even when their structures and practices closely mirror those of pyramid schemes. This distinction is often blurred by MLM's strategic emphasis on products, even when these items are overpriced, of questionable quality, or largely unsellable in the open market. Regulators struggle to prove intent or misconduct, especially when MLMs present financial data that suggests a facade of legitimacy. The role of the Federal Trade Commission, FTC. In the United States, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, is tasked with overseeing MLMs, but its enforcement has been inconsistent and often reactive. While the FTC has successfully prosecuted some high-profile cases, such as its actions against Herbalife and Vema, these interventions are the exception rather than the rule. The sheer number of MLMs, combined with the lack of clear legal standards, makes it difficult for the FTC to pursue cases proactively. Moreover, settlements often fall short of addressing the systemic issues within the industry. Companies like Herbalife have faced financial penalties and were required to restructure their business models, but they continue to operate, using these settlements as a public relations shield. For participants, such outcomes offer little recourse or restitution. Political influence and lobbying power. MLMs wield significant political influence, making it even harder to impose stricter regulations. Many MLMs are members of the Direct Selling Association, DSA, a powerful lobbying group that advocates for the industry and frames MLMs as legitimate business opportunities that empower individuals. Through campaign donations and lobbying efforts, the DSA has successfully resisted attempts to tighten regulations, often framing such efforts as attacks on small businesses. Politicians from both major parties have supported MLMs, sometimes even appearing at company conventions or endorsing their practices. This bipartisan backing underscores the financial and political clout of the industry, which has positioned itself as a key player in the economy. International perspectives on regulation. The regulatory landscape varies significantly across countries. While the United States has struggled to enforce clear standards, other nations have taken more decisive action. For example, China has outright banned MLMs, citing their exploitative practices and potential for social harm. In contrast, countries like Canada and the United Kingdom have adopted hybrid approaches, allowing MLMs to operate under stricter guidelines. These international examples highlight the potential for more effective regulation but also reveal the complexities of enforcing such measures in a globalized economy. MLMs often adapt their strategies to exploit regulatory gaps, shifting operations to jurisdictions with weaker oversight. The role of social media and technology. The rise of social media has further complicated regulatory efforts. Platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok have become fertile ground for MLM recruitment, allowing participants to reach vast audiences with minimal oversight. Regulators face challenges in monitoring and policing online activity, especially when MLMs employ influencers and subtle advertising tactics that skirt existing guidelines. In some cases, social media platforms have taken steps to curb MLM activity, such as banning certain types of recruitment posts. However, these measures are often insufficient, as MLMs quickly adapt to new algorithms and policies, finding innovative ways to evade detection. The cost of inaction. The lack of robust regulation has allowed MLMs to flourish at the expense of participants, many of whom are left financially and emotionally devastated. Critics argue that regulators have failed to protect vulnerable individuals, particularly women, low-income workers, and marginalized communities who are disproportionately targeted by MLMs. A call for reform. This chapter underscores the urgent need for regulatory reform to address the systemic issues within the MLM industry. Clearer legal definitions, stronger enforcement mechanisms, and greater accountability are essential to curbing the exploitation perpetuated by MLMs. Without these measures, the industry will continue to thrive in its current form, leaving countless individuals to bear the brunt of its predatory practices. As we move into the next chapter, the focus shifts to the cultural forces that sustain MLMs, examining how they've adapted to modern trends and continue to thrive despite growing scrutiny. Chapter 5: The Cultural Phenomenon of MLMs. Multi-level marketing, MLMs, have transcended their business origins to become a deeply embedded cultural phenomenon. Their ability to adapt to changing societal norms, leverage emerging technologies, and align with aspirational ideals has kept them relevant for decades. This chapter explores how MLMs have ingrained themselves into contemporary culture, blending seamlessly with modern values like empowerment, entrepreneurship, and self-care. The rebranding of MLMs, from parties to platforms. In the early days, MLMs relied on in-person gatherings such as Tupperware parties, which combined social interaction with sales pitches. These gatherings fostered a sense of community while creating a low-pressure environment for recruitment. Over time, however, MLMs shifted away from these traditional formats, embracing digital platforms and social media as their primary vehicles for expansion. Today, platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok have replaced living rooms as the new venues for MLM activity. Recruits market their products and opportunities through curated posts, stories, and live streams, often presenting themselves as relatable influencers. This digital shift has allowed MLMs to reach broader audiences while tapping into trends like personal branding and the gig economy. The cult of hustle, MLMs and modern aspirations. MLMs have skillfully aligned themselves with the hustle culture of the 21st century, which glorifies hard work, self-made success, and financial independence. They present themselves as opportunities to escape the constraints of traditional employment, promising recruits the chance to be your own boss and achieve unlimited earning potential. This narrative is particularly appealing to millennials and Gen Z, who face economic pressures such as student debt, job instability, and rising living costs. MLMs market themselves as a solution to these challenges, blending the language of empowerment with the promise of financial freedom. Phrases like "you're building your own empire" and "this is your time to shine" are designed to resonate with ambitious individuals seeking control over their futures. Self-care in the wellness industry. In recent years, MLMs have capitalized on the booming wellness industry, aligning their products with trends in health, fitness, and self-care. From essential oils to dietary supplements, these products are often marketed as tools for achieving holistic well-being. This focus on wellness allows MLMs to tap into a cultural shift toward prioritizing mental and physical health, while also positioning their products as necessities rather than luxuries. The wellness angle also gives MLMs an air of legitimacy, allowing them to frame their recruitment pitches as a chance to help others achieve healthier lifestyles. This approach often blurs the line between altruism and commerce, further embedding MLMs into the fabric of modern consumer culture. The role of social media influencers. Social media influencers have become powerful allies for MLMs, using their platforms to promote products and recruitment opportunities. These influencers often portray MLM involvement as glamorous and rewarding, showcasing their lifestyles and successes to inspire their followers. By leveraging the trust and relatability of influencers, MLMs gain credibility and access to engaged audiences. However, this strategy has also drawn criticism, as influencers often omit the realities of MLM participation, such as financial losses or high-pressure sales tactics. The aspirational content they create can mislead followers into believing that MLM success is easy and attainable, perpetuating false expectations. The intersection of MLMs and gender roles. MLMs have long targeted women, particularly stay-at-home mothers and those seeking flexible work options. This focus has allowed them to position themselves as vehicles for empowerment, offering women the chance to contribute financially while maintaining traditional caregiving roles. In the digital age, this gender targeting has evolved to include women seeking to balance professional ambitions with personal fulfillment. MLMs frame their opportunities as a way to have it all, blending career success with family priorities. This messaging, while appealing, often obscures the structural flaws of the MLM model, leaving many women vulnerable to exploitation. The dark side of MLM culture. Beneath the polished veneer of MLM culture lies a darker reality. The emphasis on positivity and self-reliance creates an environment where criticism is discouraged and failures are blamed on individual shortcomings. This toxic positivity silences dissent and reinforces loyalty, even among those who are struggling. Additionally, the pressure to maintain a facade of success on social media can lead to emotional burnout and strained relationships. Recruits often find themselves sacrificing their authenticity and well-being in the pursuit of MLM success, further entrenching them in the system. A cultural chameleon. The adaptability of MLMs is both their greatest strength and their most insidious trait. By aligning themselves with modern values and trends, they've managed to remain relevant and appealing, even as skepticism about their practices grows. This chapter highlights the cultural mechanisms that sustain MLMs, setting the stage for a discussion of their broader societal impact and the growing resistance against their influence in the next chapter. Chapter 6: Resistance, Reckoning, and the Future of MLMs. As multi-level marketing, MLMs, continue to thrive, they face mounting scrutiny from activists, former participants, and a more informed public. This chapter examines the growing resistance against MLMs, the steps being taken to hold them accountable, and the potential paths for their future. While MLMs have proven remarkably resilient, the tide of awareness may finally be turning against them. The rise of anti-MLM activism. In recent years, a grassroots movement of anti-MLM activists has emerged, challenging the narratives that MLMs perpetuate. This movement is driven largely by social media, where former participants share their experiences and expose the predatory practices of these companies. Platforms like Reddit, YouTube, and TikTok have become hubs for anti-MLM content, featuring testimonials, educational videos, and critiques of the industry. These activists focus on debunking the myths that MLMs use to recruit participants. They highlight the financial losses suffered by the vast majority of recruits, the manipulative tactics employed to sustain engagement, and the emotional toll of MLM involvement. By shining a light on the realities of MLM participation, the anti-MLM movement aims to empower individuals with knowledge and protect potential recruits from falling into the trap. Legal and regulatory pushback. Governments and regulatory agencies are also taking steps to address the harms caused by MLMs. In the United States, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, has increased its scrutiny of MLMs, targeting companies that make false income claims or operate as pyramid schemes. Settlements with companies like Herbalife and Vema have resulted in significant fines and mandated changes to their business practices. While these actions represent progress, critics argue that they don't go far enough. Many MLMs continue to operate in the gray area of legality, using vague income disclaimers and heavily marketing their products to mask their reliance on recruitment. Activists and lawmakers are calling for stricter regulations, clearer legal definitions, and harsher penalties for companies that exploit participants. Shifting public perception. Public perception of MLMs is evolving as awareness grows about their exploitative practices. Documentaries, podcasts, and investigative journalism have played a crucial role in shaping this shift. Productions like the Dream podcast and the documentary Betting on Zero have brought MLMs into the spotlight, exposing their impact on individuals and communities. This growing awareness is particularly significant among younger generations who are less likely to be swayed by the traditional MLM playbook. Millennials and Gen Z, armed with information and skeptical of exploitative business models, are more likely to question the promises of MLMs and resist their recruitment efforts. The role of technology. Technology continues to be a double-edged sword for MLMs. While social media has been a powerful tool for recruitment, it has also amplified anti-MLM voices and made information about the industry more accessible. Additionally, advancements in data analytics and digital marketing have allowed regulators and activists to track MLM activity and identify patterns of abuse more effectively. The rise of independent e-commerce platforms has also provided an alternative for entrepreneurs seeking to sell products without joining an MLM. These platforms empower individuals to build their own businesses without the burdens of recruitment and financial commitments, challenging the notion that MLMs are the only path to entrepreneurial success. The path forward for MLMs. Faced with increasing resistance and regulatory pressure, MLMs must adapt to survive. Some companies are attempting to rebrand themselves, shifting their focus from recruitment to product sales and emphasizing transparency in their operations. Others are exploring hybrid models that blend traditional MLM strategies with direct-to-consumer sales and e-commerce. However, these changes are often superficial, designed to comply with legal requirements rather than address the systemic issues within the industry. As long as recruitment remains the primary driver of income, MLMs will continue to face criticism and skepticism. A reckoning on the horizon. The resistance against MLMs represents a broader cultural shift toward accountability and consumer protection. It challenges not only the business practices of MLMs but also the societal values that enable their success. By exposing the pitfalls of hustle culture, toxic positivity, and the commodification of community, the anti-MLM movement is fostering a more critical and informed public. Hope for a more ethical future. While MLMs may continue to exist, their dominance will likely wane as awareness grows and alternatives emerge. The fight against MLM exploitation is far from over, but the momentum of resistance offers hope for a fairer and more transparent marketplace. As we turn to the conclusion, we'll reflect on the broader lessons of selling the dream and the importance of challenging systems that profit from exploitation under the guise of opportunity. Conclusion: the real cost of selling the dream. Selling the dream, the billion-dollar industry bankrupting Americans, is a sobering exploration of an industry that thrives on aspiration but often delivers devastation. Multi-level marketing, MLMs, have sold more than products. They've sold hope, independence, and the illusion of financial freedom. Yet behind the glossy marketing and inspirational rhetoric lies a stark reality, a system designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. This book unveils the complex mechanics of MLMs, from their origins as innovative sales models to their evolution into cultural juggernauts. It exposes the tactics that prey on vulnerability, the psychological manipulation that sustains loyalty, and the regulatory failures that allow MLMs to persist. But most importantly, it highlights the human cost, the financial ruin, emotional strain, and broken relationships that MLMs leave in their wake. While the story of MLMs is filled with exploitation, it is also proof of its resilience and resistance. The rise of anti-MLM activism, growing public awareness, and calls for regulatory reform signal a shift in the narrative. People are beginning to question the promises of MLMs and demand accountability from an industry that has operated in the shadows for too long. The lessons of this book extend beyond the MLM world. They challenge us to critically examine the systems and narratives that promise easy success, quick wealth, or a shortcut to happiness. They remind us of the importance of informed choices, ethical business practices, and protecting the most vulnerable members of society from predatory schemes. As the MLM industry faces increasing scrutiny and resistance, the hope is that individuals will be empowered to see through the allure of these deceptive dreams. True empowerment lies not in chasing someone else's vision of success but in building systems and communities that prioritize transparency, fairness, and genuine opportunity. Selling the Dream is a call to action, a reminder that the pursuit of financial independence and fulfillment should not come at the expense of integrity and equity. By shedding light on the dark side of this billion-dollar industry, it offers a path forward, one where ambition and opportunity are grounded in truth, fairness, and the shared desire for a better future.